like to welcome each and every one of you to the very first meeting of the new calendar year of 2023 of the City Board of Directors on this rather warm Tuesday, January 17th. Stick around and the weather will probably change before we adjourn here today. We're going to begin with an invocation led by Pastor Crossley, and I'll lead the pledge. All rise.
Our Father and our God, we thank Thee for this day. We thank Thee for all You have done for us and all that You're doing. We pray Your blessings upon this meeting tonight. We thank You for all of our leaders, and we just pray, God, that You would give them the wisdom, the knowledge that they need to do whatever needs to be done here in our city, for we have a great city, and we're most thankful for it. We thank You for all things You've done and doing. We pray Your Spirit and Your power upon each person in this place. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Director Aaron Holliday.
Here.
Director Phyllis Beard. Director Marcia Dobbs-Smith.
Here.
Director Dudley Webb III.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Steve Trusty.
Here.
Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. This time we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions to the agenda or items to be moved from consent agenda to new business?
Mayor, there's nothing that needs to be changed on consent or added to your agenda, but I did want to make the board aware that at tonight's meeting, since we did not meet the first week of January, that this will be the acknowledgement of the organizational meeting of the Board of Directors for the City of Hot Springs pursuant to Act 235 that's found in Arkansas Code Annotated 14-43501.
Okay, very good. So we'll just add that as a
As a prelim matter.
prelim matter.
Yes, sir.
1 minute, Mr. Director Webb. Yes, Director Webb.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. On, I guess I'm motion to modify or amend the resolution. It's going to be Resolution 2302. This is the agreement with Cruz and Associates. Yeah.
That's on consent. If you want to amend that resolution, it would need to be moved to new business.
Okay.
Are you asking that that item be moved to new business so that there can be discussion?
Yes, if the way to make this amendment is to move it to new business, and that's what I want to do.
Okay. Is there a second?
Anybody have an issue?
Have a second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to have removed from the consent agenda item number 2, which would become the first item of new business. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Since hearing no opposition, we'll have it moved to the first item of new business.
Mayor, I am asking Sheila to get in contact with Bob Wright. Bob is in Springdale this evening at a council meeting there. We'll see if we can get him in on a Zoom if there's something that you want to discuss on that item.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we've modified the items under the consent agenda, and so we're still looking for a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Correct.
So moved. Director Trustee, seconded
Second.
by Director
Second.
Dobbs-Smith. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Now we'll move on to consideration of the approval of the minutes. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented for December 20th, 2022? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Director
Second.
Trustee, seconded by Director Garcia. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. We have a number of guests here today, and very special guests. Director Kurt Lane of the Arkansas Opioid Recovery Partnership is here to make a special presentation to the Hot Springs Police Department. I'd like to call Director Lane forward for his comments on the Opioid Recovery Partnership and presentation of the check. We have a number of people with him. We took photos in advance of the meeting, but Tanisha Barnes and Colin Jorgensen are also from the Arkansas Opioid Recovery Partnership. Chris Valines is representing the Arkansas Association of County. Mark Hayes is the president, executive director of the Arkansas Municipal League in the city of Hot Springs. We got Chief Chris Chapman, Sean Willis, and Corporal Jesse and who I believe I used to be his kicking coach or something like that in high school back in the day. But Mark Hayes, you're a very special guest here today as well, because you know the impact that this has on Arkansans and your family. So
Yes, sir.
please proceed.
Thank you. The Association of Arkansas Counties and the Arkansas Municipal League, where's Chris? There he is. We engaged in a partnership some 5 years ago to try to right the wrongs that have been done in Arkansas by the opioid industry, the manufacturers and distributors, et cetera. We are the most unique litigation in the country, and as a result, we have already hit the ground running with solutions across the state of Arkansas. We're the first one in the nation to be doing that. Our goal is to abate this wretched epidemic and to fill gaps where those gaps are needed, to get the help to people that they need to overcome, and to help families who have had to deal with overdoses and deaths like my family has. It has been some of the most rewarding work I think I've ever done. I think Chris feels much the same way. We've been very fortunate to get Kirk and his much better partner in crime here. She's incredible. And Colin Jorgensen, thank you for the legal work that you've done. It is with a great deal of pleasure that we present this money. It is an incredible program, and it is one of the things that is a stepping stone towards getting people the help that they need. And I'm thrilled that the police department is engaged in this. Couldn't be happier with the work you guys are doing. Thank you so very much. So with that, here's your big check. I think the little one is probably a little bit more meaningful to your pocketbook, but and it's already in hand. And we're just delighted to be able to do this tonight. So thank you all very much.
Thank you all. So those who are at home and those who are who can't see the front of the check, it's Arkansas Opioid Recovery Partnership to the City of Hot Springs Police Department, $411,338.24 for the opioid response team. Mark, those are truly meaningful dollars, and
They are,
really
and
help.
it does great work. And thank you, Chief, and gentlemen, thank you. I can't tell you what it means to those of us who go through this, so thank you. Thank you all very much.
Appreciate you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Be safe driving home.
Director Lane. So on behalf of the Arkansas Opioid Recovery Partnership, which is a child of these two agencies, we are so proud to work with the City of Hot Springs Police Department, especially Chief, who helped us develop this years ago. We saw the need for funding, wanted to expand that funding, and were able to do that funding. And also, in addition to this check, they put in for the Naloxone Hero program, and we were able to award them over $25,000 in naloxone for this year alone to put out into the community to help save those people in the community. So it really is a reflection of your leadership, being supportive of this program, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you all. Our next item of business is to recognize our 30th anniversary of the Sister City program, and Mary Zunick and members of her Sister City Foundation Board are here to receive this proclamation, which I'll read. Hanamaki, Japan, and Hot Springs, Arkansas, celebrating 30th anniversary. Whereas a sister city is a long-term partnership between two communities and two countries, which is officially recognized after the highest elected or appointed official from both communities sign off on an agreement to become sister cities. And whereas the city of Hot Springs, Arkansas, and Hanamaki, Japan, officially became sister cities on January 15th, 1993. And whereas since 1993, our cities have participated in scores of educational exchanges, cultural and artistic exchanges, city employee exchanges, and even a baseball exchange. All of these have drawn the people of our two cities closer together. And whereas within the past year, the economic impact of our sister city connection has extended beyond the scope of tourism to include two new Hot Springs area businesses. Whereas I2 Specialty Paper, which imports Japanese paper products from Japan, has relocated to Hot Springs from Fort Worth. I2 worked with officials in Hanamaki because of the sister city connection, and now the company imports paper from Hanamaki. Origami Sake, the state's first sake brewery, will open in Hot Springs this year, bringing a new industry to our city and town. Origami Sake will transform Arkansas rice and pure Hot Springs water with the use of solar energy to produce delicious sake beginning in 2023. And whereas the Hot Springs National Park Sister City Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit organization, was established a few years after the Sister City program began. This organization, made up a dedicated board of directors, is vital to the success of the Sister City program, as it assists with fundraising to support educational exchanges, aids with hospitality, and facilitates volunteer support for the program. And now, therefore, I, Pat McKay, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the entire Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim January 17, 2023 as Sister City Day in Hot Springs, Arkansas, a witness whereof I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city to be affixed on the 17th day in the year of our Lord, 2023. So I'll present this to Mary Zunick, and she and her board members can have a few moments.
I'll stay put. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Mayor McCabe, and to the Board of Directors, and to all of you who, the leaders in our city who have provided support for the Sister City program over this past 30 years. It's such an honor to receive this proclamation and have it be Sister City Day. As Mayor McCabe mentioned, our program actually began on January 15th, 1993. It was about 5 days before Bill Clinton was inaugurated as president. It was the first Martin Luther King Day, and so we've had a few changes since then over these past 30 years, but we have always clung close in spite of illness over the past few years that have prevented us from being able to travel with pandemic restrictions, but we've taken part in virtual exchanges, and we are so happy that restrictions have been lifted now, and we will be able to celebrate in person. A delegation will travel from Hot Springs. Student delegations will travel this summer thanks to the support of the Sister City Foundation that helps coordinate and raise scholarships for those students to travel and the teachers to travel. Adults will travel to Hanamaki to celebrate the 30th anniversary in September for an in-person celebration. And historically in the past, the city or members of the Board of Directors or mayor have traveled with that delegation to Hanamaki to represent Hot Springs, along with the other citizen representatives who travel for that celebration in Hanamaki. And then in October, they will reciprocate, and a large delegation, usually 25 or 30 people, will travel from Hanamaki to celebrate the 30th anniversary with us here in Hot Springs. And so we look forward forward to. This is just the beginning of our 30th year, and we'll have special events going on throughout the year, with the next one being the Arkansas Cherry Blossom Festival. It's not just a Hot Springs Cherry Blossom Festival anymore. It involves the whole state, that will take place April 2nd here in Hot Springs. So thank you all for your ongoing support. And Corey Alderdice is the board chair of the Hot Springs Sister City Foundation. Michelle Roberts also serves on the Sister City Foundation Board of Directors. And Darlene and Gentle. Why did I've known her forever. Darlene Gentle is also a member of the Foundation Board of Directors, along with many other dedicated volunteers who support the endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate you. Now I have we'll move on to with Director 2, Ms. Phyllis Beard. She's going to read a proclamation on National Day of Racial Healing. Director Beard.
National Day of Racial Healing 2023 Proclamation. To all whom these present shall come, greetings. Whereas, just like those who came before us, it is our duty to protect the children of the city of Hot Springs and maintain communities in which they may all be given the opportunity to succeed. And whereas, we must all work earnestly to create courageous and supportive environments that acknowledge the traumatic past, promote the healing of wounds created by racial, ethnic, and religious bias, and build an equitable and just society so that all Hot Springs children can thrive. And whereas children have the right to be provided every opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive in a nurturing environment that they do not violate their safety, dignity, and humanity. And whereas every single person has the opportunity to exhibit an act of kindness to make a simple change within themselves that can have a profound effect on the entire city. And whereas if we all dedicate ourselves to the principles of truth, racial healing, and transformation, we can all bring about the necessary changes in thinking and behavior that will propel this great city forward as a unified force where racial biases will become a thing of the past. I can't read anymore. I just want to know, how are we participating in a day of racial healing when we have a Confederate flag at the corner of Market and Washita? I can't read anymore. Pass that. Yeah, right there.
Whereas racial healing is vital and critical to the commitment to education, social, mental, and overall well-being of the residents in the city of Hot Springs, particularly children, and whereas the city of Hot Springs, in conjunction with others throughout the state and the United States of America, acknowledges January 17th, 2023 as National Day of Racial Healing in the city of Hot Springs, and urges all citizens to promote truth, racial healing, and transformation in the ways that are best suited for them individually as a means of working together to ensure the best quality of life for every child. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Pat McCabe, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors, hereby proclaim January 17, 2023 as National Day of Racial Healing in the City of Hot Springs.
Very good, thank you. We'll move on with the city manager's report, and Mr. Burrow.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. We'll start off by saying that we're working hard to close out 2022 and get our budgets in line and projects started for 2023. And I know our staff is extremely busy on both of those. Tonight, though, I'd like to brag a little bit on the city. The City of Hot Springs was presented with 2 Arkansas Business 2022 Trendsetter City Awards at a luncheon this last Thursday, January the 12th, at the Arkansas Municipal League's Winter Conference there in Little Rock. The 2 projects that earned statewide recognition were the Lake Ouachita Water Supply Project in the infrastructure and water category, and Hot Springs Creek Greenway Trail and Majestic Park for the tourism, development, creative culture category. Both of those were winners in cities over 20,000, so we're extremely pleased to have that honor and win those 2 awards for great projects. These honors were published in the December 19th edition of the Arkansas Business, but we also had a surprise at the AML luncheon that we won AML's highest award given to all cities, and that was the Don A. Zimmerman Pinnacle Award, which was chosen among all the trendsetter entries throughout the state for all categories. The award was presented for the Hot Springs Creek Greenway Trail and the Majestic Park Tourism Development entry, such as which highlighted the Greenway Trail's history and recent developments, but primarily the Majestic Park, Velocity Park, and then Phase 1 of the Hollywood Healthy Trail and the new outdoor workout equipment that we've got down on the Greenway. To find out any more about those projects, you can, along with all the 6 city projects that were honored over the past 3 years, this is our 6th win in 6 years, so we're very pleased. But you can visit cityhs.net/trendsetter and be able to read all about those projects. They're a testament to the collaborative effort of everyone at the city, from the vision to the action of the board to the hands-on determination of our crews and individual staff members, as well as our partnerships throughout the community. Water crews, I want to brag a little bit about them again. It wasn't as bad as the snowpocalypse that we had back in last February, but this Christmas we had an Arctic blast that came through, and again we saw frigid temperatures, Arctic cold, and had numerous service line repairs that were needed, many bursts. I think we had a little over 400 at the last count, and those were freezing temperatures, wet environments, but our water distribution crews, they worked overnight for a couple of nights actually. 60 hours of overtime, almost all of it was spent shutting off our water to the customers' burst pipes. The water production was way up as well. We were well over 20 million gallons a day. This time of year, we average about 14. And then our peak, when we get to the summer, we hit that 22 million gallons a day. So you can see what difference that made in how much of the leaks. About 2/3 of about a third of what we were producing were just leaks. I want to echo what our utilities director, Monty Ledbetter, said, and giving a big thanks to our crews that worked throughout the Christmas holiday. And these things were happening on Christmas Eve, and these gentlemen had to leave the environment of their home and celebrating Christmas, and we just appreciate all that they do for us in that regard. Our October sales tax was up 8.78%, which gave us a year-to-date increase of 7.98%. So, as you know, during the pandemic and post-pandemic, we really fared well as a city. We set record sales tax collections in 2021, and now in 2022, we're about 8% above that. I get quite a few questions on our paving program. The last update I'd given the board was on December the 20th. So since that time, we've been able to complete the remainder of Hollywood, Ledgerwood Road, Ledgerwood Circle, and parts 3 and 4 of Higdon Ferry Road. Along with continuing our Saxony Court and Taylor Place today. The 2 paving crews will follow with Saxony Street, Windsor Place, Farnsworth, and Oakcrest Streets. The milling crew, we've kind of stopped them. We're getting close to some of the temperatures where we can't lay asphalt, so we don't want to let them get too far ahead and mill a street that we can't come back and pave, and then it's just a really rough terrain until the temperatures warm back up. But they're assisting the pavers. Once we get caught up on what's been milled, we'll start again and probably take just short sections until we know that we can get those paved. Wayfinding and the Whittington project updates. The wayfinding project has been behind schedule. That's due to being able to get the signage. We're expecting that to come in this week, and we'll start seeing some of that wayfinding project come to life in the downtown area. when we start having more consistent signs for wayfinding. Also, the work on the Whittington Flap grant, that was about a 3-year process to get that grant and finally get that in motion. That's happening now. It started and it's up by the apartments on Whittington. And by the time we're complete, we'll go all the way around the circle, all the way to the School for Math and Science. Police Department's promotion and badge pinning ceremony. I want to talk about these individuals that were promoted over on January the 6th at the Hot Springs Convention Center. The following are promoted. We've had to Corporal Jason Green, Matthew Cheatham, Chris Shoemaker, Randy Rogers, and Trent Chaddock. The following were promoted to Sergeant. That was Mike Brown, Jarrett Cantrell, and Zach Brown. And the following was promoted to Lieutenant, Mike Hall, Scott Lampion, and Kirk Zahner. Mark Davis was also promoted to Captain. The following officers were sworn in during their badge pinning ceremony. It's always wonderful to attend these events and to see our new officers as well as the promotions, but to see our new officers come in and receive that badge for the first time. Nicholas Cato, Joseph Reichard, Christian Rios, Isaiah Sims, Austin Morphew, Blake Forga, Anthony Montano, and Juan Diaz. We want to welcome them to our Hot Springs Police Department family. And then finally, this will be the last time that this board convenes in an open session. And Chris Chapman, our chief, is in the back of the room. And as you all know, Chris tendered his resignation on January the 12th. His last day will be on the 27th. And I just want to tell you, Chief, how much I've enjoyed working with you, and you've really done great things here. We've seen, in some cases, double-digit decreases in our crime over the past 2 years, 7%, 9% in other violent crimes. We've seen that reduction. You've left us with a great blueprint, and I just want to thank you for your friendship and your leadership, and we're going to miss you. But we wish you the best. I can tell you that it was a really, really tough decision for the chief. I'm not at liberty to say where he's going, but I can tell you that it's something we can all be proud of, that they chose our chief for this next assignment in his life. And man, what a great opportunity, and we're proud of you. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you. At this time, we'll entertain announcements by the individual directors of upcoming events. Any upcoming event you'd like the public to be made aware of? Director Holliday.
Yes, I want to let everyone know that our next piece of public art is going to be unveiled. It will actually be the Babe Ruth statue that will be unveiled on February 6th at 10:30 a.m. The public is welcome to attend. It'll be at Majestic Park. It's in celebration of the 128th birthday of Babe Ruth, so it'll be on his birthday, and it's only the third bronze of Babe Ruth that is in existence. So again, the public is welcome to attend that at 10:30 on February 6th.
Very good. Any other? Director Garcia?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to announce and invite everyone to join me in supporting Special Olympics. The Special Olympics will be held at the Hot Springs Health and Fitness on February 25th at 11 a.m. And our own police department SWAT team has been the winners, and I know they were the big winners for like 3 awards, and the biggest award last year and in previous years. And they all gather and jump into cold water in February to raise money for this good purpose. And if you don't want to jump in the water like I don't, then I invite you to help sponsor them and to help them raise money and give for a good cause for this purpose. And I want to thank them I don't deserve this challenge coin. It's very, very nice from the Hot Springs Police Department SWAT. And one of their patches that I will proudly wear, but I don't deserve it, but thank you.
Any other announcements of upcoming events? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. March 9th, 2023 at 5:30, we're having a District 4 quarter meeting, and the public is invited to attend this meeting. It's at First Lutheran Church. That's at 105 Village Road. The meeting starts again at 5:30. Lasts about an hour. There's food and drinks that are present. At this next meeting, Dr. Stephanie Nahus, who is the Hot Springs School District Superintendent, will be the guest speaker to give a school report. And at these meetings, we do have an agenda, and the agenda covers, for the most part, safe neighborhoods and local issues, but it is also followed by an open floor. So I just encourage you to attend this meeting with us. Thank you.
Very good.
And also, the Arts Academy of Learning is celebrating McCoy Legacy Day, which is, it looks like it's Saturday, February 18th, and it is at Champion Community Center. There's McCoy Fest at 3 to 6 p.m., and it is a free community event. And that is to remember Officer Willie McCoy, the late Willie McCoy, and his wife has put on the McCoy Legacy Day, our piano teacher, mine and Doug's piano teacher. So great things that she's planted in the community.
What was that date?
It's Saturday, February 18th.
On the national news, local or state news yesterday on Channel 7, there was a national story, and I posted this on Facebook a couple other times as well, but from a national news perspective, they have a real challenge on the abbreviation for Arkansas. And last night they had AK for Arkansas. They had a story about seat belts in school buses, and they showed a map of the United States with those states that required seat belts in school buses, and Arkansas was one of them. And so right there in the middle of the TV screen, they have the map of the United States. They've got Arkansas illuminated with AK. So I'm going to make it a personal point for the city of Hot Springs. And I've got a skit. We're going to work on it here, and we're not going to do it tonight because we've got too much on the agenda. But we're going to maybe make some national news, and we're going to teach ABC what the abbreviation for Arkansas, Alaska, and Arizona is, and that'll be the last thing we do. So stay tuned. Okay, we're going to move on to consent agenda. This is
Mayor,
oh, I'm sorry, we got a...
That's quite all right. This is kind of an add-on. As I mentioned earlier, Act 235 of 2015 states that the members of the governing body elected for each city and town shall annually in January assemble and organize the governing body. And in doing so, set forth your procedural guidelines for your meetings. The Hot Springs Board of Directors has done that in a permanent fashion by adopting the ordinances and resolutions that are codified under Hot Springs Code, Title II, Chapter 1 and following. So, Mayor, with your permission, if the minutes may reflect that you have acknowledged that you all have already established such rules and procedures for the governance of your meetings.
Very good. So we consider it acknowledged, right?
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. We had a little tsunami up here.
Borough tsunami.
And Mayor,
Water everywhere.
Not a drop to drink.
So,
Mayor,
yes, Director
the
Garcia.
Title II, all of those procedures are accessible for anyone to view on our website under our ordinances in the Title II section. So anyone can have any questions, what you just said entails, it's accessible by anyone on our website.
Very good, thank you. Now we'll move on to consent agenda. These are items of a routine nature that do not warrant individual discussion. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved,
Second.
as amended,
Director,
because we moved an item to.
yeah.
So
well,
as amended.
Right, we're going to move
Okay.
that.
Thank you, I'll make that motion.
Second.
You got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same sign. Consent agenda is adopted. Now we'll move on to what was the consent agenda, item number 2, which has become the new first item under new business. And it's a resolution. I ask the city attorney to read by title.
Yes, Mayor, this is Resolution R-22-02, a resolution extending an agreement with Cruz and Associates for Inc. for financial advisory services. That concludes your reading. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. And the staff report will be provided by
Karen Scott.
Karen Scott. Ms. Scott? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. On August 6, 2013, the Board approved Resolution Number 8264, awarding a contract to Cruz and Associates to provide financial advisor services to the City of Hot Springs. Cruz and Associates has continued to provide these services since that date and has assisted the city with several bond issues. ACA 1458104 provides that the governing body of the city of the first class, city of the second class, or an incorporated town may purchase the following commodities without soliciting bids. Number 18, renewal or extension of the term of an existing contract. The city believes the contract with Cruz is beneficial, the services provided are critical, and desires to extend the agreement to continue utilizing Cruz as the financial advisor for an additional 3 years. Staff recommends the approval of continuing the agreement with Cruz and Associates to provide financial advisory services.
Any questions of Ms. Scott? Director Garcia?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just for everyone's general information, as the financial advisor, Cruz is not allowed to issue the bonds. He helps service those and work those agreements. However, as the advisor, then they cannot be partaking in the actual issuance of any bonds.
That is correct. We use underwriters for that service.
So there's no conflict of interest
That is
in
correct.
that. And when this was initially, this agreement was initially, the city had requested for the items for services to, what is it called?
Statement of qualifications.
Statement of qualifications to be considered for who would be hired for this position. And the contract at that time was awarded to them after review of all the statements of qualifications of those that were interested.
Yes.
Thank you.
Director Webb, you had asked this to be moved from new business to, or excuse me, from consent to new business, and you made reference to, what, an amendment or so. Did you have an idea or something you wanted to offer in that area?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. And for those who are following along, this is coming from page 16 of 63 that's being shared with us, and even those that are following along with the packet, R2302. The way it reads now is this agreement is good for a 36-month term. That's 3 years. And I look at that, and I don't want to discredit Cruz. I do realize that Cruz and Associates has been in partnership with the City of Hot Springs since 2013, and I would assume that there's been other agreements that have been renewed along the way. But I do owe it to my constituents to provide this oversight. So I look at a 36-month term or 3 years and think that's a long time. And I can't help but think, or at least I'm of the opinion, and maybe some other directors here too, that should it not be written as 3 one-year renewals, whereas within that 3-year time period, we would never bid out during that time period as long as each 1-year renewal is renewed. So that's the amendment that I would like to make, is that instead of the term being set at 36 months or 3 years, that we have a 3-year, three one-year renewal agreement. Does that make sense?
Well,
Because as it reads now too, if any big financial mistake were to take place, let's say in month 4, as it stands with the 36-month agreement, we've got to wait 29 months before we can have any type of reflection or resolvement. That's 90 days prior to the ending of that 36-month term. But if we were to align it so that it's 3 one-year renewals, if any of those financial mistakes were to occur, at least then it's less time to wait to do any type of resolve.
Director Garcia.
Just a clarification, Director. In item 2, there, it does provide that the term shall be, can be extended for 3 years unless we give notice. And we can give written notice, and in the terms here, it asks for 90 days. Prior to the end of that. So we can terminate this agreement at any time
Well,
with 90-day written, with written notice before the end of the term.
That's at the conclusion of the term, not
That
during
would-
the body of the term itself.
But does that need to say then before the end of the year? But instead of, you're saying that's not, you can own, end of the term is before the end of the year, though, if it's automatically extended.
3-year term.
it's a 3-year term, so it's at month 33. The 90 days
For
would start at month 33.
For successive 3-year terms.
So if we were to do 3 one-year renewals and just not bid out, and with the intention of keeping crews unless the year renewal is not renewed, then the 90 days would fall at month 9 instead of month 29, right?
Yeah. Yeah, let's pause for a moment from a procedural standpoint, because
Okay.
you've made a motion to modify the term of renewal from a 36-month term to 3 one-year terms. And in order for us to be able to continue to discuss, we're going to need a second on that.
Okay.
Do we have a second on the proposed amendment to go from 36-month term to 3 12-month terms?
I'll give a second so we can discuss.
So we have a motion and a second. Now we can have further discussion. The other option would be to provide for a termination notice during the term of 36 months as well. You know, one could possibly give
yeah.
90 days notice at any time. Either party
Yeah.
could provide 90 days notice.
Because
The
I know
cons-
some of our contracts do include language of that nature, of 90 days. Some have less than 90 days.
The concern I have with 3 one-year terms is that it doesn't allow Cruz and Associates to really have a full buy-in for analyzing our debt instruments on a regular basis, because every 12 months they could be out. And so we do such long-term financing and interest rates move about that they've come forward at numerous times with an action plan going beyond the calendar year, if you will, in saying, hey, you know, if we keep getting to this point, we'll be able to issue different bonds at a lower rate to satisfy this bond and save the taxpayers and save the rate holders money. So, you know, I have no problem personally to have an amendment that would allow for a 90-day termination during the 36-month term, but I do have an issue with 3 12-month terms, because that really affects their ability to look long-term for us.
Mayor, if I may, this was on consent, and so Bob Wright had not planned on being here this evening. In fact, he's in Springdale working on another issue with the city of Springdale. Ms. Winter has done her magic and has contacted him via Zoom. And so if the board has any questions for Bob, who is with Cruz and Associates, regarding your issues with this contract, I'm sure that he would be happy to address those.
And Mayor, can you hear me, Mayor?
Loud and clear.
Okay. and I appreciate the questions and comments that have come up. We've been working under the same original contract since 2013, and the intent has always been, if we don't provide service to the city that is satisfactory to the city or to the board, you are not in any way going to be locked in for 36 months for our services. That's not fair to the city or the citizens of Hot Springs. If you wanted to, I don't have that in front of me, unfortunately. As Mr. Albright said, I'd had a prior engagement here in Springdale, and I just got out of that meeting, so I'm sitting in my car. If you wanted any type of amendment that allowed at any point, even a 30-day termination notice, I do not have a problem with that. You were right, Mayor, that these are long-term processes. I think the original intent with a 3-year contract is, the water, the wastewater, some of the A&P, some of the projects we've looked at, they do take a considerable amount of time. So there's a typical flow of work and such that's done. But again, if as Director Webb said, if there's any type of financial malfeasance or anything that from my standpoint would cause concern of the board, concern of the citizens, that's, change of direction is what the city should reserve their right to. I have no problem with that whatsoever. How you would want to amend that to reflect that, maybe there is a 36-month term, but with a 30-day notice, the city can eliminate that contract at no additional cost to the city.
We could probably just add that to the first sentence. First sentence reads, "This agreement shall be for a term commencing on the effective date, hereinafter provided and ending on the date 36 months thereafter." And then we'd say this, the agreement may be terminated with 90 days notice.
And I personally don't have any problem with that. I think the original contract from 13 even had a provision in there that that for additional work other than bond issues that we had the ability to charge the city. I've never charged the city in one penny because again, I think that our work should stand on what we bring, the value we bring to the city. And if that's no longer bringing value, or if the city or the board has lost confidence in us, you don't need to be stuck with a long-term contract. So if there's a easy amendment you can put in there, Mr. Albright can put in whatever, and if that would satisfy the city, I'm not opposed to that.
Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think if we were to move in that direction, which is similar to what you were describing to everybody here, so that that notice could happen at any point within the 36 month, then I believe I would favor that too.
90 days notice?
Yes.
So we would need to have you, pull down your amendment and your second. Withdraw it.
And I would
Withdraw
move.
your motion.
Do you withdraw that motion as you stated it?
And then we make a new
Yeah.
amendment?
We need a
Okay,
new
so with,
motion.
Well, let Brian kind of verbalize what it would
Okay.
be.
Yeah, so the discussion on the First Amendment yielded what seemed to be a consensus to have a 3-year contract with the ability to terminate by either party with 90 days notice, with or without cause.
Written notice, as it's stated.
Written notice.
Yeah.
And we would put that as sentence 2 in paragraph 2?
Yes, sir.
right.
Okay.
Mayor,
Director Trustee?
we'll continue the, what is the second sentence in there? The term shall automatically extend, though, at the end of the 3-year term,
Yes, sir.
under the same terms and conditions as we amend this one too.
If mutually agreeable.
Right, if mutually agreeable. Okay, thank you.
We okay? So
we
you'll make that motion that he just said?
Okay, should I withdraw that first motion, or
We
just
thought
make
you
this?
already had.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking.
Yeah, okay.
You don't get to hold on to one as we work another one.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so thank you, Mayor.
So-
I move to amend Resolution 23-02. Whereas where
Just-
term,
Just as Brian
What he
said.
said.
okay,
The words consistent with what Brian indicated.
what-
So,
Mr. Albright just said,
yeah, you're fine.
to be added to
Second,
term and
I
renewal.
agree.
Thank you.
I'm going to say, okay.
And so now, Mayor, you've got discussion on your second amendment. Just for purposes of clarity, I do want to point out, I found the 2013 agreement, okay? The terms of that agreement was initially a 5-year, and then it had additional terms of one year succeeding thereafter, and there was a 30-day termination, but it was at the end of the then remaining term. And so after the first 5-year term, they were successive 1-year terms.
Okay, but right now, we have a motion to, as Brian eloquently stated, to, you know, it'll be, at any time during the agreement, it's going to be 90 days. And Director Garcia?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. I agree with you on the message you provided about the time frame, the work that Mr. Wright and Cruz did for the water project. They worked on it for over a year and a half and worked diligently to find the best interest rates for the city. And during the time of our contract with them, they have experience proves that they will do that each and every time for Hot Springs. So I have no problem in extending the agreement with them, and this amendment is favorable to both sides, as it sounds in agreement.
So we got
and
Director
I
Webb making
support.
the motion to amend. You're seconding the motion to.
I'd already done that. I was
Right, I'm
speaking
just
now
getting
in
there, because
favor
we
of
have
it.
to, we got to vote on the resolution as amended.
Now, we vote on the amendment first, and I was
On the-
speaking in
right,
favor
we
of
got to
the
vote on the
amendment.
amendment. So we got you and Director Garcia. So call the roll to
Direct-
amend.
This is on the motion to amend.
Yes.
All right, Director Holliday? Aye. Beard?
Aye.
Dobbs Smith?
Aye.
Webb?
Aye.
Garcia?
Aye.
Trustee?
Aye.
Mayor McCabe?
Aye. Motion to amend has been approved. This item, again, was moved from consent agenda to new business. Is there anyone in the public audience that would like to speak on this resolution? It's not something you would have had a chance to sign up for earlier. Okay, hearing none. Any discussion amongst directors? Director Trustee.
Mayor, I'd just like to express our appreciation to Cruz and Associates and Bob for the work that they've done. For the 2 years I've been on here, they've been very receptive and very much proponents of the city. And I just want to make sure that we extend that congratulations to them.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
And so please call the roll.
Director Beard?
Aye.
Dobbs Smith?
Aye.
Webb?
Aye.
Garcia?
Aye.
Trustee?
Aye.
Holliday? Aye. Mayor McCabe?
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Bob, you look like a character out of Godfather. And I don't know how many bodies you got stored behind your front seat, but it's kind of eerie looking.
I know, there's nothing I can do to change it, so I can see myself. I'm like, I wouldn't want to look at that either, so I will sign off.
All right, have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. So now we're back on what would have been the first item of new business. I got my wet paper here. Consider resolution R-23-08. Now ask the city attorney to read by title. And I want to remind all board members, because we've got people out in the viewing audience at home watching, that we make sure we speak and project not into the mic, but actually through the mic, so that all those at home can hear us. Okay? Thank you.
Mayor, this is Resolution R-22-08, a resolution declaring a certain structure located at 421 Clara Street a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. That concludes your reading. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director
Second.
Trustee, seconded by Director Garcia. And Mr. Mike Scott, Chief Building Inspector, will provide the staff report. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. 421 Clara is a vacant single-family residential structure located in District 2. Per the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code, Volume 2, the Building Code, Section 116 states unsafe structures and equipment. Conditions, structures of existing equipment that are or thereafter become unsafe, insanitary, or deficient because of inadequate means of egress facilities, inadequate light and ventilation, or which constitutes a fire hazard or otherwise dangerous to human life or the public welfare, or that involve illegal or improper occupancy or inadequate maintenance, shall be deemed as unsafe condition. Unsafe structures shall be taken down and removed or made safe as the building official deems necessary. And as provided for this section, a vacant structure that is not secure against entry shall be deemed unsafe. Just to let you know, it's always our last resort to tear something down. We work with the owners, kinfolks of the owners. It is always our last resort when we take something down. That's just always been our policy. So move on to this one. The planning department has determined that this structure poses public health and safety risk. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage, including collapsing porch roofs, cracks in the foundation wall, missing siding, and interior damage as well. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, we request that the structure be condemned for the purpose of demolishing and clearing. The owner has been notified by certified mail of our intention to make this request, and we have received proof of service.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Scott from the board members?
I have a question that
Director
when
Beard.
at the agenda meeting last week, I think you said, Brian, that we were not allowed to talk to the neighbors. Was that regarding short-term rentals or?
It was only regarding a quasi-judicial determination, which the matters that would fall under quasi-judicial for the board would be a conditional use or a special use.
So that doesn't include this property?
It would not. No.
Okay. So my question to you is, how did you go about contacting the owner of the property?
We do legal notice. We give them a 30-day notice and then a 20-day notice, and we send all that by certified mail with a green card that has to be signed by that person, and then the post office gives us that card back, proving that they delivered it to that person.
Well, I saw the green card on the information in the packet. It looks like it was mailed to Kira, Arkansas. My concern is if the owner actually got it, she has a hyphenated name, so they signed it with the hyphenated name, which to me tells me it could be a family member. I spoke to one of the neighbors, and they said that the owner of the house actually lives in the neighborhood. So I understand that you did get a green card returned signed, but I'm concerned if the owner of the house actually knows that you are attempting to condemn the property.
We get our information from the Garland County office to where the owner lives, the exact name on it and everything, and that's who we have to give legal notice to, who's legally registered, and the legal address that it's registered to.
I understand that, but I don't feel that the person, the owner of the house actually is the one that signed the paper, because the paper was sent to an address in a different town when the owner actually lives in the neighborhood. She owns other houses in the neighborhood. So I would like to see the owner to maybe talk to the neighbors or do something in addition, because District 2 disproportionately loses a lot of homes, and there's not being many things built. So, as long as I sit here, I'm going to do what I can to make sure that you just don't do away with District 2 by tearing down houses.
Okay. Again, we would have loved for the owner to repair this house. It is the last choice of mine to spend city funds to tear down a house that the city does not own. So we sent letters and gave them every opportunity to do that.
Director Beard, do you know where Belinda Falwell Alvarado is?
I don't know where
Okay.
she is, but I spoke to a neighbor, and the neighbor told me that she lived in the neighborhood. She owns other properties in the neighborhood.
I see.
Any other directors? Director Garcia?
I see the issues on this property go back to 2017. Has there been any responses from the owner since that time?
I don't believe so. None at all.
And once it's condemned, is it going to be torn down? Or we've talked about, making sure it's safe. If it's not going to be immediately torn down, to get it boarded and where it can be prevented from vagrants going in, starting a fire, or doing other things. What are the plans if this is approved?
We put it out for bid, and after 30 days, we take the lowest bid. Whoever owns this is more than welcome to come down to my office, apply for a permit, put a new roof on it, secure it, and we will not tear it down. We've got 2 or 3 right now that you guys have currently condemned, that the owners have come in and pulled permits
Yeah.
and are working on it. And we go by every week and we check progress to make sure that, they did what they said they would do.
So if this owner's in Casa or here, the owner can still apply for the permit and work with you to get some work done, so that as long as they're showing improvement there.
Yes, ma'am. We do it all the time.
I saw 2 of our last month's where I saw building permits issued after that, and working with you on those
Right.
improvements.
And a lot of times this is that next step that kind of pushes them to realize that, we're serious. We need you to work on it. We've been asking you to. Now you're down to your last choice, so.
But safety is important too. I mean,
Absolutely. This house is
It's-
dangerous to the children in the neighborhood.
And do you know if the taxes are current, property taxes?
I'm sure I have the paperwork somewhere here in my packet, so. I usually put it on the notes on the front, and I didn't. That's why.
Okay, but I know with the taxes aren't current. In our conference last week, the land commissioner talked about the program in helping cities for properties so they can be redeveloped.
Right.
So if the property owner isn't interested in that, we would love for it to be redeveloped. All of these properties. I mean, that's okay if you don't have that information with you.
Any
I
other
was just
questions
curious.
of
I have a question.
Mr. Scott?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Scott, could you explain to the audience, our viewing and our in person, how you determine which houses you're going to tear down? I know there are a lot of houses in the city, but my understanding is you have to have a complaint, or usually you're not just driving around looking and saying, that one looks bad to me, I'm tearing that down.
No, we have a long list of properties that we watch called vacant structures. And some of them people are working on, some of them they're not. Some of them have deceased owners, and so we're trying desperately to locate a relative or somebody. And sometimes if we can't locate anybody, we have to turn it over to an attorney ad litem, which is the legal method for notification and everything before we can move to this step. We don't get to this step in just a month or two. This takes 6 months minimum. Sometimes it takes years. As she said, this one here, since 2017, we've been watching it. I mean, and that's relatively short. I can tell you some that we've been watching for 10 years, you know. And sadly enough, they get to this point, and then we have to bring them to the board. You know, we've got some on the list that we're watching that aren't quite here yet. We're sending out letters, trying to get them to work on it before they get to this stage. You know, but when they get to this stage, like I said, they're dangerous to the neighborhood. The roofs are leaking so bad. If you looked inside this house, the ceiling's collapsed. The floor's got a hole in it all the way to the ground. It has some major issues. I mean, honestly, it'd be hard to find somebody that would put the money into this because it would take more money than it would ever be worth. And I understand it's a house that some people might want to save, but I wish that person would step forward and fix all these houses.
Thank you.
How much does it cost to condemn the house?
For us to do the paperwork and everything,
Yes.
the paperwork's only about $140,000. Now, not counting our time, but I mean, we have a ton of time in our neighborhood services department.
$140?
$140 for just for our, it's like our stuff that we do at the county and stuff like that, you know. But I mean, an attorney ad litem cost us $500, but we have many hours in this house right here before we ever brought it to here. We have several hours in our neighborhood services department writing notifications, and you know, and I don't even know. We could look up. We may have even cut the grass here a few times.
We've also posted the property, correct?
Yeah, and posted the property and everything. So we have many hours before we ever get it to this stage. So
Well, I meant how much does it cost you to like take the truck and like?
to tear
roll it
this
over?
one this one
Yes.
down. This one's probably going to be somewhere close to 5,000. Yeah, but I mean, our alternative is to leave it there and let it just fall down, which is dangerous to the children in the neighborhood.
Mike,
And it's also a blight on the neighborhood because if you live next door to this, your property values are lower.
when we post those, if there is an owner that lives in the neighborhood, I mean, is it conspicuous?
It's right on
I
the
mean,
front
they'd be
door.
able to
We
see it?
post it right on the front door. Yeah, and it's posted for months before we get to here.
Yeah.
Maybe even years, you know. If we can't get a hold of somebody, we post it the first time we're there.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any further questions of Mike? Thank you. Was there anybody in the audience that wanted to speak on this resolution, on this condemnation at 421 Clara Street? Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Now we'll move on to consider Resolution R-23-09 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-09, a resolution declaring a certain structure located at 305 Mountain View Street as a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Dobbs Smith, seconded by
Director Webb.
Director Webb. Thank you. Our staff report will be provided by Mike Scott, Chief Building Inspector. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir. 305 Mountain View is a vacant, single-family residential structure located in District 3. The Planning Department has determined that this structure poses a public health and safety risk. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage, including collapsing roof over the carport and extensive interior damage to ceilings, walls, and flooring. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability and unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, we request the structure be condemned for the purpose of demolishing and clearing. The owner has been notified via certified mail of our intention to make the request, and we have received proof of service.
Very good.
Thank
you. Any questions of Mr. Scott on this parcel by the board? Any questions? Thank you. Did anybody sign up to speak on this?
No, sir.
Any discussion amongst directors?
Anyone here to speak in opposition of Resolution R-2309, declaring a certain structure located at 305 Mountain View Street a nuisance and condemning same? There is none, Mayor.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Director Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution R2309 is adopted. This time we'll consider Resolution R23-10, and I ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-10, a resolution granting a short-term residential rental special use permit at 288 Lake Hamilton Drive in Hot Springs, Arkansas. That concludes reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Webb, seconded
Second.
by Director Trustee. And our staff report will be provided by Planning Manager, Mr. Rick Stoddard. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Appellants Charles and Elizabeth Howland, Don and Sarah Harris, Jeff Harris, and Cameron and Holly Miller are appealing Hot Springs Board of Zoning Adjustment approval of a short-term residential rental special use permit, SUP-22-242, for a single-family home located at 288 Lake Hamilton Drive, which is an unplatted, improved, and approximately 3.15 acre property. The appellants submitted the appeal within the 30 days of the Board of Zoning Adjustment action as required by code. By means of a brief timeline of this application, a complete application for special use permit was submitted to and received by the Planning Department on August the 4th, 2022. That application was reviewed, approved, as the standards for favorable consideration were met on August the 26th, 2022. An appeal was filed to the Board of Zoning Adjustment on September 12th, 2022 of that short-term rental special use permit approval. The Board of Zoning Adjustment heard the appeal on November 30th, 2022, and they approved the short-term residential rental special use permit for this location. And that was a unanimous vote, 4-0. And then on December the 27th, 2022, the Board of Zoning Adjustment approval was appealed to the Board of Directors. The appeal requests the board to reconsider/decline SUP 22-242 based upon 4 statements. Number 1 is number of STRs on Lake Hamilton Drive have increased dramatically. Number 2, increased crime and traffic issues. Number 3, sanitation/grinder pump issues. And number 4, long property line, 676 feet, with applicant and expense to fence property to prevent trespassing. Appellant submitted the appeal to the board within 30 days of the Board of Zoning Adjustment action, which is required by code. The matters presented by the appellants on appeal may be factual, but none are standards of approval for short-term residential rental special use permits per Hot Springs Code of Ordinances. Again, the application was approved as we felt like the standards for approval had been met per Hot Springs Code.
You got any questions of Mr. Stoddard? Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. In the single-family home, how many bedrooms are in that home?
I'm not sure I have that information. I don't have that information in front of me, Director Garcia. The formula for determining occupancy is 2 per legal bedroom plus 2 additional. Okay, so thank you for that. It's a 5-bedroom, so that would be an overnight occupancy of 12.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any additional questions for Mr. Stoddard?
Yes.
You can find that page 21 of the attachments.
Right.
It's the safety inspection report.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
Mr. Sutter, I see that it's a over 3-acre parcel. Do you think there's a probability that that might be divided and turned into additional structures on that property?
I mean, there's been no indication of the owners or any questioning to us about doing any sort of a land division there. It would be fairly difficult to do as the house is way down on the lake. It would be hard to divide it and not create a landlocked issue. Not impossible though, but we have no indication that that is planned.
Thank
Additional questions? Any additional questions by the board? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Stoddard, in that same neighborhood, about how many other STRs are close by to this resident?
I believe the count was 44 STRs on Lake Hamilton Drive, which a large portion of those were coming from one condo project. But I believe last count we had 44.
Okay, so 44 STRs, about how many homes are in that area? There's 44 that are STRs. How many other residential homes are there that are not STRs?
I don't have that number.
Okay.
You said most of them were in a condominium complex.
There's a large number in a condominium adjacent to the subject property, actually.
On page 62 of the attachments is the list with the addresses and occupancy.
Thank
And
you.
it shows that a vast majority have that one address of 270 Lake Hamilton Drive, which I assume is the condo complex.
It is.
And then there's a map on page 65 also. 30 of those are in one unit.
Any additional questions of Mr. Stoddard? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a few individuals that have asked to speak on this resolution. Just a reminder for the board members and maybe for those who have signed up, while this is an appeal, the resolution is in the affirmative. So, you know, it's written as if you would approve the special use permit at this site. So to deny the permit at this site, you would vote against. I have 3 individuals that have signed up speaking for, and I'm not certain that is correct, so I don't know who's for or against. I can figure out a couple of these, but I'm going to call the first individual. I want to say Mr. Howland. Mr. Howland, please come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please. Please, you're all good.
My name is Chuck Howland, and I live at 300 Lake Hamilton Drive. And I think the big thing that we're very concerned about is that there is such a high number of STRs on Lake Hamilton Drive. It was 44. The next highest street that has, that's close to that is 26 on Airport Road, and those STRs are split across the lake. And so there are so many in there that there's with 44. I think, Mr. Director, I think you had asked how many about street addresses, residential addresses. 20% of the addresses on Lake Hamilton Drive are STRs, just residential houses. So that's not counting the high rises and multi horizontals, HPRs, I guess is it's what's called. And so the challenge is that and I had a map on some of the that I had submitted, but if you say within 680 feet, we're living near 31 STRs, and this will be 32 if you approve it. And if you want another stat, we're at 70% of all the STRs that are approved on Lake Hamilton Drive. They are near our properties. They're very close. And so, my question would be is, how many is enough? And another point to the, the large property, there's no requirement, for the STR applicant to, have a boundary to keep their transient tenants on their own property. And so I've got a large, property line that I share with 288. And so it's going to cost, a significant amount of money to, put up, some boundary in order to reduce the liability and help with some security also with our property. So I think, I just think that this whole process, this STR, has really gotten ahead of the city. It's so popular, and the lake is driving the STRs, but it's coming at a cost. It's coming at a cost, of that. And I'm also the Lake, Hamilton Drive watch captain. And, you know, and if you look at the numbers for that, well, that's 80% of all those, of the 44, 80% is within the watch area. So we're reducing the watchers is what's happening. And so, did you want to say anything, Don?
I didn't sign up to speak, but I would like to mention, and I would like to amen what Chuck had to say. Well, we've had a lot of theft out there, but since the police department, the police chief is here, I would congratulate the board and the police department. They're very cooperative. They're always there on the spot. We've had several large things stolen in the past. I've got 3 addresses down there. I live in one of them, but one of my other addresses had a car stolen last year, and Chuck had his party barge stolen, and we don't know who does it, but as I said, the police department's very cooperative.
They take advantage of the transient nature, you know, of that, because nobody's out there actively, you know, looking at boat docks and so forth, and so that's the concern. There'll be another one.
Very good. Any questions of the speaker? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. Since the increase in the STRs, is it what you're saying that your neighborhood, as it was prior to this increase, has negatively been impacted by those statements and by those reasons provided in your appeal? And is that saying, are you saying that other character of your neighborhood has been negatively impacted?
Well, it definitely, you know, increases the, you know, the traffic, you know, on the street. You know, we just a week or two ago, our gas company employees almost got hit, you know, because of there's so much traffic on that street. And we asked the city, you know, to put speed bumps, but I think it's some type of emergency type of street, and so they can't do that. But you know, there's just such a high traffic, and you can see it's a lot of out-of-state plates and so forth on that street.
Any further questions? Thank you. Oh, Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor. So you had mentioned the boat theft, and then
Yes.
also somebody had stolen a car.
Yes.
From your property, Mr. Harris. Was there any connection between the theft and then an STR renter? Were y'all able to, or was the police able to arrest somebody in conjunction with those 2 crimes? And if they did, was that person who arrested somebody who was an STR renter or an STR property owner?
Not to my knowledge. We don't know
My
that.
car made it through 3 states, but we finally recovered it, but it was heavily damaged.
The car was recovered 3 states away?
Well, it went to Louisiana and Texas,
Yeah,
and the paper getting it back.
Yeah, and our boat was returned trashed, you know, at the STR, you know, of the condo. And no, we've not gotten any follow-up, you know, from the county sheriff about, you know, who did it and so forth. I think the point is that these properties are unmanaged, you know, not as well as owners and so forth. And so they are, you know, launch points for crimes for some people, but I don't have the names.
You just said that the boat was recovered at a condo?
Yes, about 3 weeks later.
The condo where there are approximately 30 SDRs?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Any further questions of the speaker? Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next will be Stacy, Stephen, I have a hard time with the last name, Ash. And I think Jonathan Martin is her representative. Just come forward, restate your name and address and district, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jonathan Martin. I'm an attorney here in town. My office is 1401 Malvern Avenue, Suite 160. And I'm here on behalf of the Stevens and Sawyer Trust, who are the owners of 288 Lake Hamilton Drive. Ladies and gentlemen, first, Mayor McCabe, I understand that short-term rentals are both a divisive and highly publicized issue in the city of Hot Springs over the last 2 or 3 years. I think the city has done a lot of thoughtful deliberation and planning in preparing ordinances to attempt to govern the short-term rentals to satisfy both sides of the argument. I myself, as a real estate attorney in this town, have advised or represented probably upwards of 200 clients on both sides of the short-term rental argument. Some condominium associations, regular residential subdivisions, individual property owners. So I understand it's a divisive issue. What I'd like to present for you today is that there have been a lot of accusations, anecdotal evidence, or not evidence, I would say, but just anecdotes of things that have happened. And to clarify, in this case, none of this is because of my clients. They have submitted an application that met with the substance of the requirements of the ordinance that was promulgated by the Board of Directors. This was approved by planning. This was affirmed by the BZA. They have had multiple inspections of this property. As Mr. Stauder said, this is over a 3-acre property that has a maximum occupancy for STR of 12 persons. It's a 5-bedroom home. And this is not a cheap rental property. This is an estate on Lake Hamilton that's got a lot of value. My clients have owned it now this will be the 10th year that they've owned it, much of that time as their primary residence. They have an investment to make sure that this property is taken care of, that their liability is minimized, and they are familiar. While the short-term rental is going to be somewhat new to them, my clients have properties all over Hot Springs and Garland County, including residential and commercial rental properties. They have professional property management. These are not some fly-by-the-seat-of-their-pants operators who are going to allow things to occur at this property that are going to hurt anyone, the neighbors or otherwise. So first off, I would like to say that I feel like my clients have met all of the obligations and requirements under the ordinance to qualify for this permit. I'd like to now speak briefly on the numbers that have been talked about. It was indicated that approximately 44 short-term rentals on Lake Hamilton Drive, and the truth of the matter, as the board is aware, is that approximately 30 of those are in one condominium complex. And as the board is also aware, per the ordinance, condominium and HPR associations do not count toward the city's total for the maximum amount of permits to be issued. So whether or not my client's permit is granted, there could be up to 30 more units. Willow Beach Condominiums is a 60-unit subdivision or condominium association. There could be 30 more units yet that apply for STRs within Willow Beach that are not going to be subject to the city's cap. So this is not, to me, an issue of there are too many STRs on Lake Hamilton Drive. It seems to be a singling out of 288 Lake Hamilton Drive. The proof is going to bear out. The city has the ability to enforce all of the ordinances and regulations. You've got police power, you've got fining ability, you can pull the permits. Any oversight is not going to be something that is going to happen lightly. If my clients are found, if they have problematic tenants, there's a process to remedy that. With respect to the allegations of theft or increase in crime or increase in traffic, that's absolutely correct. Hot Springs has grown. While crime, it's my understanding from Mr. Burrow, he's indicated that crime is down. There is a lot more traffic in Hot Springs. There is more development near Lake Hamilton Drive than there was 10 years ago. There are apartment complexes. Of course, this is right behind what used to be the mall. I don't know I forget the Uptown, whatever the name of it is now. You've got health clubs. You've got other things within just a very short distance of this property. So this is, while 30 years ago or 50 years ago, this was a quaint, quiet portion of Lake Hamilton, this is now a central part of the city that's one street over from Central Avenue, essentially. So it's my hope that the board will see that my client has met their obligation, that they are going to be good neighbors and good operators of the STR, and that the numbers, although they can be twisted to sound compelling, they need to be taken for what they are. Thank you.
Is there any questions of Mr. Martin, Director Garcia?
I would like to clarify the comment made on the I thought there was some future restrictions on new, on the condominiums.
There is a restriction on a horizontal property regime that is established after the effective date.
Okay.
But Willow Beach has been a horizontal property regime for 40 years.
If I may, Director Garcia, also, I believe it's Cozy Lake Estates. There's another multifamily that also holds, I believe, 4 of these permits. So in actuality, I believe there are 10 single-family residences for the full length of Lake Hamilton Drive that currently hold an STR permit. And some of those were granted recently, probably even since the initial planning determination.
Any additional questions of Mr. Martin or his client? What's the nightly rental rate?
We haven't established that because it hasn't got that far. And we have used Evolve Rental.
Here, can you
Company.
maybe get a little closer to the microphone,
Sure.
please?
We've used Evolve for other rentals that we have, and they look at the whole area, they look at what's going on, and they actually make recommendations based on the property and the hotel occupancy of the nightly rental. But it should go, just a wild guess, probably between $375 and $500 a night. This is something that has been our home for 10 years, and we've raised our 4 children there. We're going to be in Hot Springs. I'm a lifetime resident of Hot Springs. We're staying here. We're just downsizing, and we want to share this property with others. Our children have kayaked and water skied and had lawn picnics, and this is not really about fear that somebody could cross the line. This is about sharing our community, and it's also giving back to Hot Springs in the form of taxes and that people come and spend money here in our area, and it gives me a joy to share Hot Springs. Like I said, this is my family home, and I enjoy having families come stay there and say, this was such a wonderful retreat. It's a family home. It's something that people are not, we do they have to be 27 years of age to rent the property. It's going to have probably a substantial cleaning fee because it is a large home. So it's going to be something that it's going to be, at least 3 to 4 nights that they have to stay. It's going to cost them thousands of dollars to stay there. So it's not going to be a fly-by-night guest. It's going to be people who are really having those multi-generational families that come in and want to be together under one roof.
Thank you. Any further questions? Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Jonathan, you said that this condo unit has 30 of those permits, which this map shows. And Brian, you said there are 60 units in that
No,
condo?
sir, I think Jonathan said there
Did
were
you
60.
say that?
That's correct.
So there's 60, there theoretically could be 30 more
That's correct.
short-term rentals, and they wouldn't have to go, they wouldn't be subject to the cap. They would have to go through the process, but they wouldn't.
They would not be
to our
subject to the cap.
Okay.
But how many of those are owner occupied?
There's really no way to know, to my knowledge, unless they claim it as
So the other
homestead.
half could be owner occupied.
Could be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it could be for now. Right.
Well, that's where Gary lives.
Yeah.
Any further questions?
Yes, I have a question. The short-term rentals, and maybe this has come up before, but something I don't understand are people that, it's like the owner lives out of state and they rent the property. Are there any kind of rules that people have to follow? Because it sounds like people come in to do short-term rentals and kind of terrorize the neighbors that have to live there all the time.
Sure.
That's what I'm hearing.
Our ordinance requires that there be a local contact person who is capable of responding to a call or a complaint within 60 minutes. As to I'm not here to advocate either side, okay, but we do not get reports of neighborhoods being terrorized. We have a meeting every Thursday of the week, and the police come and give us a report every Thursday. We've never had a complaint like that.
Well, if a boat is stolen in a car, I mean, that kind of stuff shouldn't happen. And you know, they're not saying that the short-term renters did that, but it's just, like, I wouldn't want that in my neighborhood.
None of us
To
will.
know when we were residents there, and we're not out of state. We are in Hot Springs, we're staying in Hot Springs, and these are families that rent this. This is not, you know, a frat party house. They have to be 27. It's people with their grandmother and their children. It's a family home. It has kayaks available to them. It has a boat dock. It has a large area to have yard picnics, to watch fireworks. It's a place to share experiences and to share Hot Springs with others. This is an opportunity to expand and let people enjoy a $1 million home that they get to come in and be the king and queens of that week.
I think there's a number of us going back to the boat being stolen. You know, I've lived on the lake since 2003. I've had my trolling motor taken in the mount that it was mounted on, and that predates STRs by 20 some years or more. So, or 18 years.
We were all home at the time of that.
So it happens, and we all regret that. But I do understand the loss of a boat and the loss of a car, and I'm not insensitive to that. Any other questions of the applicant? Thank you. I only had the three names. I know they came up as a duo. Is there anybody else that wanted to speak on this? Hearing none. Discussion amongst directors. Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to point out that in our ordinance, at the very beginning of our short-term residential ordinance and rental business license, it says the purpose is to clarify and together with appropriate standards that regulate short-term rental or single-family and multifamily dwellings in residential districts to minimize negative secondary effects of short-term rental use on surrounding neighborhoods and to preserve the character of neighborhoods in which any such use occurs. And this is to address traffic, noise, and density, ensure health, safety, and welfare of neighborhoods, as well as of renter, occupants, and guests patronizing the short-term rentals, and imposes limits on the number of license issued to ensure long-term availability of the affordable housing stock. And then you may ask, well, what is the character of the neighborhood? Well, communitydevelopment.org says that the neighborhood character is incredibly important to the overall perception of neighborhood quality. And why is neighborhood quality important? Because it impacts both property values and your ability to attract the businesses to our city and residents that we want. There has to be housing for residents for all levels of the workforce, and maintaining the safety character of a neighborhood. And on the government website in this area, it says it's important to satisfy neighborhood character and respect the existing neighborhood character or contribute to a preferred neighborhood character. When the number and the specific density is not identified in our ordinance, and the character of the neighborhood is not specifically identified, so those standards become subjective. And when the number of STR businesses become a high number in a residential area, when do we use our subjective judgment to determine that we've reached that limit? And I ask myself, I don't want to treat anyone any differently than what I would want for myself. So I want to do to others as I would do to myself. And each neighborhood has a different character and a different view on short-term rentals. This neighborhood appears to feel that they have the saturation point, that they have already exceeded the limit that we should consider before using our subjective judgment on the quality and character and safety of their neighborhood. And at what point do you have the density of short-term rentals before you say, this is really becoming a business area instead of a residential area? I am not opposed to short-term rentals. I am for supporting our neighborhoods and not losing any of our neighborhoods, because as we lose housing, we lose the population of residents in the city, and I believe we all lose when that happens. We need to protect our neighborhoods. The accumulation of our neighborhoods makes the city of Hot Springs. So I am looking to oppose this approval, not because of any individuals or their plans, because I'm using my subjective judgment to determine that this does contribute to changing the character of this existing neighborhood, and that we have reached the limit of the number and density of short-term rentals for these residents in this neighborhood. Thank you.
Any other director comments or discussion?
I have a question. How many single-family homes or additional single-family homes are located in that area? I know we have Willow Beach that has 60-ish, and there's apparently another commercial-type property or multifamily property. How many single-family homes are in that area?
Director Trustee, you mentioned a page number earlier that has.
65.
I couldn't find it. That's missing in my packet.
65. It's 65 of the attachments. You have to get the attachments.
Yeah, it's on the attachment, page
Say I-
65.
There you go.
But if you also look at 42, it has the parcels by address for this general neighborhood.
Page
Is
40.
that-
And there are much more,
Look at
Is it
page.
okay to allow it?
there are many more addresses
Is this right here to allow?
on
But it's
page
just like
42 of the
blocks.
attachment. Right.
If you look at having block parties.
It said allow.
Okay. But I mean, this is the complaints I received. But not
That's in that most of the homes, which has always been transient. Okay, thank you.
So did you get your question answered, Director Dobbs?
I see it's a pretty piece of property. I do not see that on here, but I'll find it.
This attachment.
Yes.
We just lost it.
Sorry.
Go to back.
Page was it?
Any additional questions of directors or discussion amongst directors?
Yeah, I have some thoughts. One, we don't actually, while we can look at the aerial of the parcels, it's still kind of unclear as to which of these are houses and what's land and what's a duplex and maybe what's a fourplex. So it's a little difficult. With respect to what Director Garcia was saying, we are at a position to where we're using our subjective authority, for lack of a better word here. But when we're talking about the opinions of the neighborhood on how it will impact the neighborhood, In the packet, I've found just the few people who have launched the appeal, which is not the same as perhaps the rest of the neighborhood. So it's a little difficult for me to lean on that character changing. Furthermore, I also grew up here, and that's the character of the lake. I mean, we've had VRBOs my whole life, and I'm sure everyone else's whole life who's been here. The density, I understand, is challenging, particularly when it comes to traffic. And I know Director Weatherford always brought up the size of the streets for these areas that have been annexed. But I think looking at where we are right now, especially with respect to the cap, we're at it. There aren't going to be any other houses, single-family houses on the street anytime soon that are going to turn into short-term rentals. It is a 3-acre parcel with a single home on it, so that in and of itself sort of backs away from the density argument as far as I'm concerned. And then, you know, furthermore, we do have 2 horizontal property regimes. So this one, at the end of the day, while it may have a great impact to an individual neighbor, I think in the grand scheme of things in this particular area has very little impact compared to perhaps what other properties could have. And just like the attorney said, you know, we have a set of standards that we have provided to the community. We have changed those over the course of the last couple of years in a way that's been difficult for property owners to do their due diligence at different times. This particular property owner has done everything, from what I can tell, correctly. And I think to rule against their application would be incredibly inappropriate at this point. They have done everything that we have asked them to do. And we do have this opportunity for appeal. We have it in there for this very reason, so we can look at specific situations. But for me, in this particular neighborhood, this one property is not damaging the character of the neighborhood. And based on the information provided in the packet, you know, having people come into this property as guests of Hot Springs is not adding to crime and all of the other potential problems. Furthermore, we do have systems in place to where if there are problems, this owner will have to deal with them if they end up renting to bad tenants. And that'll be dealt with through the systems that we have in place. If in the future our systems are no longer adequate, at that time we can change them. But at the moment, as far as I'm concerned, this applicant has done everything that they have needed to do and should be allowed to have their property.
Director Garcia.
I just briefly, I wanted to point out that at the time that you referenced growing up in that's as Lake Life, that was not a city property. All of these residents and neighborhoods did not oppose the annexation of their neighborhoods into the city because they wanted the not just amenities, they wanted the zoning and the restrictions that the city has on these type of services and the building zoning and these type of protections versus the outside the city limits.
Okay. Any other comments from directors before we close the discussion and call the roll? Hearing no further comments. Yeah, thank you. Again, a aye vote or yes vote will affirm and allow the STR to move forward, the special use permit to be implemented, and a nay vote or no vote is a denial. Okay, everybody understand? Please call the roll.
Director Garcia.
No.
Trustee.
Yes.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
No.
Dobbs Smith.
No.
Webb.
No.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution fails 4-3. We'll move on to Resolution R-23-11. Ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-11, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of a National Park Service Paul Bruin Historic Revitalization Grant to benefit Central Avenue and Pleasant Street Historic Districts. That concludes your reading. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Holliday, seconded by
Second.
Director Garcia. And Planning Manager Rick Stoddard will provide the staff report. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. This request seeks Board of Directors approval to apply for and accept a Paul Bruin Historic Revitalization Grant from the National Park Service, Department of the Interior, that would benefit both the Central Avenue and Pleasant Street Historic Districts. The National Park Service Paul Bruin Historic Revitalization Grant supports sub-grant programs that enable rehabilitation of historic properties. Funding allows recipients to rehabilitate, protect, foster economic development in rural communities. The National Park Service uses the definition of rural community as a community with a population less than 50,000. The National Park Service has confirmed that Hot Springs is eligible for consideration as a rural community based on population size, even though the census categorizes Hot Springs as urban. This grant requires no match, and up to 25% of the grant funds could be used for administrative cost. The amount of grant funds being requested is $300,000. If received, the grant funds would support the city awarding sub-grants via a competitive local grant program.
Any questions of Mr. Stoddard on this item? No questions? Very good. Anybody sign up to speak on this?
No, sir.
No one from the audience? Discussion amongst directors.
I think,
Director Garcia.
thank you, Mayor. I just want to commend them on, in their department, on finding this in the next grant to apply. And I just really give you all kudos in doing this. I think it's great.
Thank you.
What's the time frame for the filing and the potential of being
I
awarded?
believe it's April of this year is when we will know whether this grant was successful or not.
Oh, pretty quick.
And it's 100% grant.
Yes, ma'am.
No match required.
Director Trustee.
And it is 400,000 even, right?
Sir?
That's what it said. It is $400,000 even, right? It's not 410 or 407.
No, we're actually, the amount of funds being requested is $300,000.
Okay, fully funded by both agencies. I'm sorry. The total available funds will be 400.
Right.
This one's 300.
That's combining it with the other
Okay, this
grant.
one's 300. All right, thank you.
All right, very nice. Please call the roll.
Director Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. We'll consider Resolution R-23-12 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Mayor, this is the companion grant associated with the one that you just considered. Resolution R-23-12, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of a National Trust for Historic Preservation 2023 African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund National Grant to benefit the Pleasant Street Historic District. That concludes your reading. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Dobbs Smith. Again, the Rick Stoddard Show continues. Planning Manager, City of Hot Springs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This request seeks Board of Directors approval to apply for and accept a National Trust for Historic Preservation 2023 African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund grant that would support a grant program to conserve or mothball deteriorated and abandoned properties within the Pleasant Street Historic District. Abandoned properties in the Pleasant Street Historic District are unsightly, oftentimes dangerous, and frequently become attractive nuisances which threaten both residential quality and longevity of precious historic and cultural resources. The grant would support the city in conserving selected deteriorated long-term vacant properties. Construction work must conform to the Secretary of Interior standards for treatments of historic properties. Roof replacement and/or repair and secure view treatment on transparent materials to cover structure openings would be typical of the scope of work funded by this grant. Outreach to and cooperative agreements with property owners will be critical to the success of such a grant-funded program. The amount of grant funds being requested for this grant is $150,000. And that concludes the presentation.
Are you getting questions of Mr. Stoddard on this resolution? Director Trustee.
So I'll go back to the amount. This one's 150, the first one's 300. That's 450,000
Yeah.
instead of 400.
And that may
I
have
knew I
been-
read that last night and I was confusing the numbers between the two.
Yeah, that
I'm
may be a
sorry.
typo.
It is
Ron.
450.
Okay, it's 450 total.
Okay.
And it, as Director Garcia said, it's 100% match on both.
Yes, sir.
100% grant, no match required from the city.
We're using one grant to match the other.
Okay, very good.
And who will determine how the funds were going to be spent? That is the board of directors, correct? Is this the same question I asked you earlier?
If we receive the funds, we'll put that plan together, and that plan will come back and be approved by the board.
Any additional questions of Mr. Stoddard? Thank you. We have no one from the audience. Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs-Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. Our final action item of the evening is to consider ordinance O-23-01. Now entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So move.
Director.
Second.
Trustee, Director Garcia. So we have a motion and a second to suspend the rules to read by title only. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Please read by title.
Ordinance O-23-01, ordinance waiving the requirements of competitive bidding and approving procurement of census water meters and associated components. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So
Motion.
move.
Director Trustee, seconded by Director Garcia. And staff report is being provided by Deputy City Manager Denny McFate. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. The city's water system has an automated water metering system utilizing water meters, software, and related components manufactured by Census. In order to ensure compatibility throughout the city's system, meters should be of the same model and brand, and such meters and components are only available in Arkansas through Core and Main of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Therefore, staff is requesting waiving competitive bidding for an initial purchase of meters and components from Core and Main of North Little Rock in the amount of $317,769, and the funds are available in the 2023 utility budget.
Any questions of Mr. McFate on this item? Director Garcia.
Just for clarification to the public, if we do not maintain this, we're in violation of first Act 605, but also, isn't it that the meters older and slow down, then it underreads, and then when a new one comes in, it's going to catch it up, and so it benefits the homeowner or business owner to maintain these properly and keep them as new on the rotation as possible.
Yes, ma'am. They do lose their accuracy over time, and these meters that we're replacing right now are about 12, 13 years old.
So they're getting at end of life.
Yes, ma'am, they are.
Thank you.
Director Webb.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Is it true, too, that, with between, 30 and 37,000 water recipients here in the city, that although there may be some that are 12 or 13 years old, that doesn't include every water meter, because there are some that are staggered? So even though we make this kind of over purchase, we're doing so with the expectation to just service the ones that are in the greatest need first and wait on the others to kind of hit their expiration date and replace those meters too. Does that make sense?
Well, as we have a meter fail, we're replacing it. We're able to
Right.
track that. So about 12, 13 years ago, every meter in the city was replaced at the same time. So they're all pretty much the same age. We have one small section that were drive-by reads. Most of those were out in the Royal area that we changed out at a later date. They also are the same census meters that we're talking about. But as we see meters starting to fail, and meters lose about 1% a year once they get past that 10-year period. So, they're going to slow read about 1% of the time. We pull meters out of the ground consistently send them out to get true, accurate reads to make sure that those meters are still reading accurately. But we know just from our experience over the last 50 years that meters are going to start reading slow once they start hitting that end of life. These meters have about a 15-year lifespan, so we need to have a program in place where we're replacing a certain number of those every year, and we may get to a point where we need to replace, 50% of our system. But if we can start every year replacing about $300,000 worth of meters, then we're going to be well ahead of the game once we get to that point. Hope that answered that.
Yes, thank
Director
you.
Trustee?
Denny and Bill, you may have just said it, but didn't you say this would purchase approximately 1,000 meters?
Yes, sir, this is 1,000, and on the 5/8, we use about, new accounts on the average per year is about 370 meters. So we'll set those to the side and earmark those for new accounts, and immediately use the difference in the numbers of the 1,000 to start immediately replacing the bad meters that we know of.
So we'll replace 600 or so?
Yes, sir, we have 700,000 in this line item budgeted in utilities for 2023.
For this year?
This is our first big initial. We saved about $60,000 with this larger purchase, so we're purchasing 100 or 50 at a time.
Right.
So we did a lot of a large savings by purchasing this amount. We'll be coming back to you before the year's up.
And Bill, back to your point, then that will allow us to start this replacement process, and so 5 years from now, we may need to replace 15,000 or 18,000 instead of the full 36 or 37,000 meters.
Right. We really need to get on a schedule like that.
Right.
And hopefully, as we move through that process over the next 10 or 15 years, we'll get to a point to where we can replace about 1/10 of the system every year
And that-
over the next 10 years.
Right.
It was great that we were able to replace all the meters when we did, but that kind of causes just some issues that we're running into now at the end of the life. But one of the things we also have on this order are 1,000 of the MXUs, and batteries are a big issue that we have. So a lot of times we'll go out, we may not need to replace that whole meter, we may just need to replace the MXU or the part that sends that communication to a tower so we can bill it. So there's about 3 components on these meters: the meter, the battery, and the MXU, and this lets us address all of that.
Great.
Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So out of this initial order here, which will get us on at least the phase 1 of this timeline of replacing the meters to put us in a great scenario moving forward, about how many are set aside for new properties?
We're going to set aside a bank of about 370, 380 of them, because that's what we usually install on the average year. And then the rest of them, we'll immediately start working on replacement. And when we get those, when we go through that inventory of the replacement side, we'll come back to you with another order for more meters.
Director Trustee?
Sorry, last question. Denny, were there any supply chain issues with these? Did we have to order these some time ago under being?
Ironically, Director Trustee, it is and it isn't. If you order 50 or 75, they tell you it's 42 weeks. If you order 1,000, they tell you it's 4 weeks.
Well, let's go with the 4 weeks from.
We're going that route, yes, sir.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a commission thing. I don't know why that is, but if you order a small amount, they put you at the end of the line.
And that's probably it right there. If they can sell 1,000, they want to sell 1,000.
I would if I was a salesman. Yes, sir.
I would too.
You gotta have 20, 50 orders, 50 unit
That's
orders,
correct.
and you got 1,000, then they'll run them, otherwise you're waiting.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, thank you.
Any additional questions?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody sign up? Nobody would have signed
No,
up?
sir.
Any discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. We're under Board of Directors items for discussion, but before we get that, I was somewhat remiss. I know we introduced Director Phyllis Beard and Director Dudley Webb at the agenda meeting last Tuesday. This is their first official meeting, so we enjoyed having you and your level of participation this evening. We look forward to further participation as we work through the year. We'll end up probably having close to another 22, 23 meetings before the end of the year, some special, some specially called, and of course, we don't count work sessions or agendas in that number, but pretty much every week you almost have a meeting, you know, so we look forward to working with you on that. So, Director of Items for Discussion, any Board of Directors have an item for discussion? Director Garcia.
I just wanted to thank Sheila Winters for all of the organization and scheduling that she did for the board members to attend our municipal league conference that was mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, where we won those awards, and thank everybody for working on those. But she does a great job in helping all of us get coordinated, get our reservations, get us registered, and I just wanted to publicly thank her. Thank you.
I second that.
That's great. Thank you.
Any further directors' items for discussion? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. We got to see Chief Chapman here earlier this evening, and I want to take this time myself to give Chief Chapman tons of gratitude for the years of services that he provided our city with. I wish he were still here today, but I know he will get my message. He did a great job, and I think, Bill, you did a great job earlier speaking to Chief when he was here. So I do want to echo a lot of what you were sharing with Chief. His community involvement and educational opportunities for citizens are two traits that I valued most about his leadership here in Hot Springs. His efforts just in those two areas alone are what allowed everyone in Hot Springs to be afforded opportunities to possess knowledge, to address crime reduction and public safety. Chief Chapman's shoes will be big shoes to fill, which makes the next steps that we take as a city moving forward to hire our next police chief ever so important. And the hiring committee is a big key, I think, to the steps that we take, which is why I want to suggest a shared stakeholder approach to who fills these seats on this hiring committee. Due to the many joint operations taking place between the Hot Springs Police Department and Garland County Sheriff's Department, I want to take this time to just propose a local law enforcement representative to serve on this committee. The suggestion I would propose to our board is either the sheriff or undersheriff. I know Sheriff McCormick has close to 3 decades serving with the Hot Springs Police Department and almost 1 decade as sheriff. He, in my opinion, would make a highly qualified candidate to serve on the hiring committee for our next police chief. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other items for discussion?
I would like to add on to that, Dudley. I think that's a great idea. However, I recommended a former police officer to serve on the Civil Service Commission, which is the body that hires the police chief.
No, let me correct everyone. The hiring of the police chief is going to be my responsibility. I'll name who the committee is if I choose to have a committee. I take what you just mentioned under consideration, but you know, the hiring of a police chief lies within the powers of the city manager. So we need to make sure that we respect our form of government. I do appreciate any advice that the board would like to give, but I want to make sure that we have that understanding on what's going to happen as we move forward.
Any other items for discussion? Okay. If there's no other items for discussion, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Director Garcia? It's so unusual, we don't know what to do. Director Beard, Director Elaine Jones always made the motion
Move
to
to
adjourn. You
adjourn.
want to assume that responsibility, or we'll pass it around?
You got a
Move to
lifetime
adjourn.
member over there. Boo.
That's right.
Oh yeah, we got a lifetime member. No, we'll let the two new directors adjourn the meeting.
Well, Mayor McKay, before we do that, I do just want to share with the board and with Bill that all I was doing was just making a suggestion. That's all, you know, as we move forward, I know it's going to be important for our city to make sure that who we hire does fill those big shoes that Chief Chapman has. So in no form or fashion was I trying to disrespect your hiring process, but I do want you to know that for what it's worth, I would hope that we would look in that direction. That's all I was trying to do. Thank you.
And I also would like to add to maybe consider in the future that a former police officer serves on civil service, because I feel that they have they bring an insight and they have information that regular civilian people do not offer.
Very good. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Garcia made it. Hey,
Oh,
wait,
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 she
hold on.
made it. She made the
Director
motion.
Garcia? Yeah.
She made the motion.
She did.
Second.
Oh, you made the motion.
She did it a lifetime ago.
Second.
Well,
It felt
and
actually
thank you,
slapping.
Brian Albright, for projecting a 2-hour meeting. We are, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Okay, good.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank